Coming up on Hoge Jahns, are we feeling better, worse, or the same after training camp? We'll dive into all of that. Plus, our friend Ross Tucker joins the program as well. Hoge Jahns starts right now. What's up? Welcome in. Hoge Jahns back with you after a little bit of a weekend. Johns, put a smile on your face. Jesus. You had a couple days off.
I worked yesterday.
You did. You had a column out this morning.
Yes.
5 thoughts on the preseason.
5 takeaways. 5 takeaways column is back. I did it at the Sun-Times for a couple years. I did it at The Athletic for a couple years before some changes. So I'm glad to bring it back to allchgo.com.
We got a fun show for you today. We are going to basically revisit what we did at the end of minicamp. So a few months ago, basically 2.5 months ago, essentially is what that was. Looking at, do we feel better, worse, or the same in 5 key ingredients for this season? See if anything changed or shifted, and I think some things did. So I thought it would be a good exercise at this point. As training camp is officially over, we're recording this Monday morning. Obviously, at the preseason finale on Friday night, and some cuts came down yesterday. Just a few, really none of the, the key questions were answered by any means. But some cuts did come down yesterday. We'll see if they continue to whittle down the roster because it's a little awkward. To be quite frank, there's practice today. There's practice tomorrow, and then there's cuts. The roster needs to be finalized. Is it during practice or right after? I think it's right when practice ends. So it's a little bit of awkward timing there.
Well, since this has become part of the routine since they made the changes, since it's just this one big cut, we've seen practice where there's like 53 guys out there plus the injured guys, but some guys are going to be returning on the practice squad. Obviously, they have this new expanded practice squad, so the roster is really 69 players, and those players to reach 69 aren't there quite yet. They're down the road at the hotel waiting to be re-signed. Now, some of them do get picked up elsewhere, maybe 1 or 2. It's not a big amount, but yes, it's a different time of year when decisions are made and rosters are finalized.
So we will be back with you on Wednesday when we at least have the initial 53-man roster. And our friend Nate Tice is going to join the program Wednesday, too, to give his thoughts on Caleb Williams' entire preseason. And today we're going to hear from Ross Tucker, who was on the show a few months ago as well. He jumps back on, and he of course, is all over the NFL. We'll get his thoughts on a few different things. I do have a little bit of good news to share with everybody because I know we've been getting questions about this, but the soundboard is making a comeback. The soundboard is really mostly for our Friday preview show, so those will be returning next week when we get into week 1 against the Vikings. So we had to get it back up and running. There's a bunch of technical stuff behind the scenes I don't need to explain. I did the good news, other than it coming back, was it forced me to dig through some old audio files. So we have some new ones. I thought I'd bring one back from our old friend Mark Helfrich. Remember him?
Yeah.
Former Bears OC.
Can you hit it right now? What do you got?
Yeah.
Show a little voodoo to the quarterback and just get on the edge of a tackle and get a ton of sex without pressuring.
Yeah. So yeah,
there's a lot of those in that one.
Yeah, I did too. There's a lot of those in the archive. So stay tuned because there's more coming.
Show a little bit of voodoo for the quarterback, and you get a lot of sex.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, that's perfect football talk.
Show a little voodoo to the quarterback and just get on the edge of a tackle and get a ton of sex without pressuring.
Mark Helfrich is doing games, I think, for Fox or something, college football games. Every once in a while, I turn on a game and he's there.
Well, if he says something like that, he's going to go viral nowadays.
Well, maybe he should be going viral here just for that on Hoge Jahns. All right, let's jump into this. We are going to go through some categories that we, talked about a few months ago. Let me pull these up so I make sure I do them in the right order. All right. Johnsy, better, worse, or the same? That's how are we feeling? We're feeling better, worse, or the same. And we'll start with Ben Johnson and the coaching staff.
Better. And of course, this starts with Ben Johnson. I don't know where I was in the last time we did this, but if it was better already, I feel even better than I did before, because I just appreciate his approach to coaching Caleb Williams. It's relentless. It's extremely demanding on him. And he's like, I appreciate the fact that he's not taking it easy on his young quarterback. He's not catering to the things he does well all the time. He's trying to build the quarterback in different ways. Obviously, the play action has come into play. Being on our center has come into play. But he's challenging his quarterback to pick things. He's challenging his quarterback to play at a level that's needed in the NFL. He's not going to fine-tune everything he does to what he does to what he's done before.
Right. So, look, all we can do is as we continue to move through this honeymoon phase, which we're still in, and it might end here pretty quickly. We'll see once the regular season starts. But all we can do is, cover what the next step is in this journey within the honeymoon. And the biggest thing I wanted to know from everything that was talked about, because look, it's a lot of talk in the spring, right? You got your introductory press conference, you got draft season, what's said at the combine, what's said at the owners meetings, right? We check off all these boxes. It's all talk until they can actually get out there on the practice field. So then we got to cover things in the OTAs and mini camp, and we saw that accountability. We talked a lot about him holding people accountable and all that, but it's like, okay, pads haven't even started, haven't been through a training camp. And then all of that continued. More on a daily basis, more access, more reps, not only for the players, but for the coaches, and actual few preseason games to go off to. And I feel better for this main reason. The action has backed up the words. And that has not always been the case. We've had other coaches, we're going to hold these players accountable. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And then it's like, okay. And then where is that actual accountability? We're seeing it on a daily basis with Ben Johnson. And oh, by the way, we're seeing all the things that we already knew about with the offense in terms of scheme. And there's still a lot unknown. I mean, I still think that there's going to be an adjustment here. And I'm sure a big focus of this week, which is basically a bye week before they jump into week one, will be, okay, this is what we have with our offense. This is what we have with Caleb Williams. What can we do as coaches to scheme up what we have? Because that's really where the stuff's going to get whittled down here in the next basically 14 days. We're 2 weeks away from the opener right now.
Yeah, you're going to remove some stuff from Caleb Williams' plate. I think you have to. I know we'll get to Caleb here in a little bit, but I appreciate the fact that Ben Johnson, did you watch his press conference? I know you played it on CHGO's Bears show, but I must have watched it 3 times, maybe 3.5 times, because I went back and listened for some very specific quotes for my takeaways column. I appreciate that he was upset, visibly upset. His team won, and you wouldn't have known it by his body language or the intro. Yes, he did mention some of the highlight plays, especially Ja'Day Walker was outstanding on that final series. But I appreciate that emotion, that level of accountability carried over into his press conference, where he was ready to deliver a message to Caleb Williams and his starters about that game in that moment already.
Well, and I guess what I like about it the most is just the high expectations. Because I got to be honest with you, Johnny. Johnny. Johnsy. There's a drop. Watching the tape, I didn't think it was that bad. I didn't think it was as bad as Caleb and Ben seemed to feel about it on Friday night. No, I'm not saying
isn't that maybe that's the expectation level that he wants for his quarterback?
Oh yeah, I think it is. I love that.
Let's not throw in the double coverage to Roma Dunze in the back of the end zone. Take the check down to DeAndre Swift, get the first down, and now we're 1st and goal inside the 5. Something like that.
Right. The sack wasn't good and that play wasn't good, but and obviously they started sloppy too. I mean, who knows who's to blame on that opening handoff on the end around to Olamide Zacchaeus. That was actually surprising because pretty much everything between Caleb and OZ has been crisp this year. So, but I still thought that Caleb played in the pocket comfortably for the most part. We're talking about a handful of plays and not something that was not even a handful, like 3 to 4 plays compared to now over the course of an entire game. Does that turn into 10? That's probably where Ben Johnson's coming from. And that's what you want that number to be lower. So I get it. I didn't think it was that bad. In fact, I still saw some of the good things pop. There was one play where he went, you could see him very clearly going 1, 2, 3, and then dumping it off. I think to OZ, who was coming over kind of on the shallow. So I still think there was plenty to like about Caleb Williams just in that performance. But overall, the fact that Ben Johnson has this high standard and is sticking to it on a daily basis makes me feel better about the coaching.
So my second takeaway, I'll give everybody a little bit of preview if you haven't read it yet. Number 2, misreads by Williams that lead to missed opportunities for the offense will be worth tracking under Johnson because he's doing as much as the Bears play caller.
So you're saying that Ben's gonna be tracking the
I'm just saying, like, yes, I think they're important to note.
Yeah. The last thing on this is we put coaching staff in there too because we know more about this coaching staff now than we did a couple months ago. Same thing. I feel better. Already felt pretty good, but I still feel better. I think Antoine Randall, Al Harris, Dan Roshar, Dennis Allen leading the defense. There's just a lot to like about the entire coaching staff. Really have not seen many red flags at all. And so I feel pretty good about it right now.
Yeah. I like how open and honest some of the coaches are. Like very not afraid to sugarcoat answers because we got to interact with them again and talk about how things are playing out for their certain positions during training camp. And I just appreciate that they're confident enough in their own coaching where they're not saying everybody's trying to get better. They're hiding behind cliches. I appreciate that fact when coaches are that direct and open and honest.
Yeah, they all seem to be following Ben Johnson's lead on that, which is cool.
It's like appreciated.
When Dan Roshar was talking about the left tackle situation, which 100%. We're about to talk about too. But first, we get to Caleb Williams here. Johnny, better, worse, or the same when it comes to Caleb Williams?
The same. But that's okay. He's in his second year. He's learning a pretty complicated system that's challenging him. And I appreciate how Ben Johnson is coaching him. So have I seen enough to feel completely better? No. Have I seen some things that make me feel a bit worse? Absolutely. But this is a young quarterback learning a new system with a couple new receivers, with a new play caller, a lot of everything. New offensive coordinator, QB coach. So that all has to be taken into context here. So for the most part, he had some highs, he had some lows. All that's to be expected. So to me, it doesn't change. I feel about the same on Caleb Williams and my expectations for him.
So this, I don't know, this might surprise some people. I'm actually going to go with better. Now it's probably, if we're going to be more specific, probably slightly better. But again, this is going off of where we were in June. I don't know if Caleb hadn't turned that corner that he seemed to turn the Dolphins week. Not the Dolphins week, the Bills week. Sorry. I might have even said worse, but he did turn that corner and he stacked those 3 practices the Bills week. And while last week was a little bit weird, they really only had one real practice last week going into that finale against the Chiefs. And I get that specific outing in Kansas City probably isn't proof that things are better. But I also think in general, everybody's putting a little bit too much stock in these preseason games for the most part, like including the week before against the Bills and how good things looked, right? So it's somewhere in the middle. And really the reason why I feel better is because there were times and I think you'll admit this too, I mean, things look pretty bad. And it was like really a question on, to me, and I still think it's going to take some time, but what was Ben Johnson really going to be able to lean on to use in the first like month of the season that he could totally trust? And so part of the reason why I feel a little bit better is because I think Caleb, that turn he's made, the positive turn, we've seen enough under center. We've seen enough in the play action, enough with him going through his reads and his footwork improving. It still needs to go a lot higher and get a lot better. But I at least feel more confident that talking about what we just did with Ben, how he's going to have to parse this thing down and come up with, a chunk of plays, obviously more than a chunk, but enough of this playbook that he can use week 1 against Minnesota, that there's enough there that they can have some success. And I don't know if that's, I think it was so murky back in June. So I do feel a little bit better right now.
I think if I'm searching for like my positives would be the connection that formed with OZ. My positives would be the connections that he has with his tight end still. And my positives would be like the connection he has with Rome Odunze. They've all had good training camps, the tight ends, OZ, and Rome Odunze. I think that's positive for Caleb Williams. I just compare it to that one year that DJ Moore came in and was just Justin Fields to DJ Moore. Justin Fields to DJ Moore. Like, that's all you saw. That's all you saw. So I like that he's spreading the ball around a bit more to his weapons. And he's got a lot of weapons. But maybe it's just me listening to Ben Johnson 3.5 times the other day. I'm trying to elevate my standards of expectations and an accountability for how to perceive and evaluate Caleb Williams. Like, if he's not good enough yet, I can't say I feel completely better because I don't think Ben Johnson feels that way right now. That's my read on him.
Fair enough. Left tackle. Better, worse, or same?
Worse? Okay. It's good news that Braxton Jones has seemingly gotten healthy. He has seemingly won this position. He's going to be the Bears starter. Do you read it the same way?
Yes.
Okay. That's good. He's been more than fine. He's been a solid left tackle, especially as a 5th-round pick. He's exceeded the Bears draft expectations for him. He's a good, solid left tackle. Now, that said, I think this competition changed a little bit, at least from a public perception, when Ozzie Capillo, was kicked out of there and moved to right side. And then walks the Canadian bald eagle. I got that right.
No, it's just the Canadian eagle. Carm calls him the bald eagle.
I know. I'm kidding. Theo Benedict.
And he learned that bald eagles exist in Canada.
They can fly across the border. Correct. I think it's good for Benedict, but also quite interesting in terms of I don't want to say they misevaluated Ozzie, but he obviously wasn't good enough at left tackle to force a serious competition with Braxton Jones as the day started to add up.
Yeah, let's just call this what it is. Braxton Jones won this job by default. So I feel worse about it because nobody really won it. And the head coach is openly saying they might have to reevaluate this at the bye week, which is after 4 games. So I don't feel great about it. I doubt that Ben Johnson feels great about it. I don't think he accomplished what he was hoping, which he said multiple times out loud, which was that, he could trust whoever's left tackle by themselves in pass protection and not have to help, which closes up your playbook a little bit more. And he's going to have to do that early in the season. There's no question about it. So I'm not saying this is panic. I think the rest of the line is going to be pretty solid and they'll be okay and they'll find ways to help Braxton Jones. But if we're just isolating the left tackle position, compared to where everybody was hoping this thing to be going into the season, I definitely feel worse about it.
Like Karan Amagaji is he even part of the conversation anymore?
That's the thing. Karan's not even really in there anymore. And Ozzie got moved back to right tackle. So 2 of the 3 people that were in this thing are not really in it anymore. And then so the one positive is Theo Benedict. Good for him. So one of the 4 guys, at least they had somebody at the position who improved since the spring. And Braxton Jones technically has too because he's healthier. But I don't know if, even if you said, here's healthy 100% Braxton Jones, is he better than he was a year ago? I don't think they know that.
No, I don't know. That's a big question mark, especially heading into week 1. They got 2 weeks now from today. What is it? 9:53 a.m. here in Chicago. They got a lot of time. Braxton Jones has 2 weeks to get even more healthy, stronger, all that stuff. But the Minnesota Vikings are going to be quite the challenge for this offensive line in week 1. So we'll see where they're really at when all these blitzes come at them from Brian Flores.
All right, 2 more to get to before we bring in Ross Tucker. Johnsy, the pass rush. Better, worse, or the same?
Worse. I wanted to feel better about it, but I don't think I marked 55 enough down in my notebook during training camp, and that would be Dayo Odangbo. And fair or not, he was signed here. He was signed to a pretty good contract, and that changes expectations for you. That changes outside evaluations for you, and it changes internal evaluations for you. I don't know. I think I just expected a bit more note taking in number 55 throughout training camp.
Yeah, I think it goes beyond that too. I mean, I definitely feel worse about this. I am concerned about the pass rush. I thought Montez Sweat looked good early in camp and then kind of tailed off. Dayo, I don't know if you watched the film. Dayo was like stuck in quicksand getting off the ball in that game. And honestly, a guy who I have praised this entire camp, number 99, Javon Dexter, was also. It was like he reverted back to one of his what I thought one of his weaknesses was in the previous scheme, which was just getting off the ball. Now, I understand there's adjustment going from Soldier Field to on the road where the offense, gets a little bit of a cadence advantage. Okay, it was a preseason game. Did you see the crowd before kickoff? Like, it was half full. What are we talking about here? Like, this isn't Arrowhead in January. If you can't pass the test in August with a half full stadium, that's concerning to me. So I still like the interior. I was a little bit disappointed. I saw Javon Dexter go backwards on Friday's game based on the camp he's had. But on the outside, I have to imagine here, maybe even by the time we're doing Wednesday's episode, Johns, that there's at least some type of addition made there.
Not.
It's probably not going to be one that pushes needles.
Okay.
It's going to be like a Darrell Taylor. Like, remember last year they traded for Darrell Taylor?
He had like 1.5 sacks.
Right. That's my point. There's not much you can do.
He had one big game in the beginning of the season, and that was it. Obviously, like a Micah Parsons or a Trey Hendrickson would completely change the complexion of this defense, but never say never, but I don't feel like Dennis Allen's going to have to blitz. I know he wants to blitz. It's some of the best pressure that we've seen from the Bears throughout training camp was when Kyler Gordon was on his way, when Kevin Byard was being sent, Jaquan Brisker, TJ Edwards. Those were some of the best pressures the Bears had on Caleb Williams. Now, Montez Sweat did win his fair share, and Javon Dexter, I thought, has an outstanding camp. But, yeah, after a couple preseason games, to me, it goes down to number 55 again. It's the expectation level has changed because of his contract and what he was brought in to do. And I don't know if we saw enough of that to feel completely good about what the Bears are going to get from him in the regular season.
Before we get into the running game, I just think it's a little disappointing that if you just track what we've talked about so far, we feel better about the offensive or about the coaching staff. We feel mostly the same about Caleb. I tilted a little bit better. And then we feel worse about left tackle and the pass rush. So here we are. We're still talking about the edges of your trenches. Like this whole offseason was supposed to be about the trenches, right? Coaching staff in the trenches. Feel better about the inside. Definitely on the offensive line. I do too on the defensive line. I'm starting to be a little bit more concerned there. But the fact that we're still talking about left tackle and the edges on your defensive line, that is an important part of the game of football. rushing the passer and protecting the passer. And
some would say that is just football. That's it.
And we're still here talking about it on August 25th, 2025.
But again, if you're going to expand the conversation a bit, like I feel good about the Bears' offensive line. I do. Braxton Jones, if he gets better, gets healthy, okay, that's a good unit. But the pass rush, I feel good about the idea of blitzing and how aggressive Dennis Allen wants to be. But specifically, just looking at the front four, I want more from number 55.
All right, last one. Do you feel better, worse, or the same about the running game?
Better. I mean, this run game was working with Deion Hankins, Britton Brown. At least schematically, it was working. And those guys were playing with some of the Bears' better players. And they were like, did you know who they were coming into camp? Like Britton Brown, he's a recent addition.
No, I didn't know because he wasn't even on the team.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Deion Hankins turned out to be a good player. I feel better. I think they can run the ball with Kyle Monangai. I think they can run the ball with DeAndre Swift. I think in short yardage situations, Hoge Jahns, if he's healthy, he's a threat. He's a good threat to have in those situations, especially in the goal line. So, and to bring up the offensive line again, I think the Bears can run the ball behind that offensive line. I think Braxton Jones can still deliver in those situations. Like I'm more concerned about Braxton Jones in one-on-one pass sets than I am running the ball. They can still run the ball behind Braxton Jones. I think we saw some of that in camp.
Yeah, I like that on the second drive. After the first drive was basically a disaster on Friday night, they first down, just run the ball. They got like 3.5 yards, and they were able to move the Chiefs starters backwards. So I think there are small signs that the running game will be pretty solid. DeAndre Swift has looked good all camp. So I think, and I think as long as Kyle Monangai is healthy, there's enough there that I feel better about the running game at this point, despite all the injuries. Because Travis Homer, Roschon Johnson, we still don't know. Deion Hankins went on IR. So I don't know. The depth there is a little concerning right now. But if this ends up being DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai, I think you can feel pretty solid about that with Ben Johnson calling the plays and drawing things up. All right, so there's your look at feeling better, worse, or the same about the coaching staff, Caleb Williams, left tackle, pass rush, and the running game. A little bit of a mix of both. Feeling better about some things, worse about others, and that's probably an accurate look at where the Chicago Bears team is going into the season, week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. We're going to hear Ross Tucker's thoughts on all this, about what he's seen from the Bears, what he's seen from Caleb Williams so far in this preseason. We'll bring him in right after this break.
Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, and Plumbing and Electric has been serving Chicagoland for 50 years. Now is the time to get your air conditioning checked out, and Four Seasons experts are ready to help you with your AC installation, maintenance, and repair. Four Seasons expert technicians ensure you always receive reliable service, and Four Seasons doesn't charge more for service during nights, weekends, and holidays. Schedule your Four Seasons AC tune-up today. Save $50. That's $50. Enjoy a 1-year no breakdown guarantee. Gotta love that. Save up to $4,000 on a new comfort systems with Four Seasons new AC units from $39 a month and AC furnace combos from $57 a month. Your trusted local experts are Four Seasons Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. Visit fourseasonsheatingcooling.com for all their special offers and money-saving coupons. It's fourseasonsheatingcooling.com.
And if you're looking to buy tickets, maybe for the upcoming football season or really anything, you want to check out the Game Time app, because the Game Time app gives the advantage back to the fans. It's the hack for unlocking amazing tickets and experiences in just a few taps. It's incredibly easy to use. I use it all the time. The Game Time guarantee makes sure that you can trust that you'll get 100% authentic tickets on time and at the best price. And what I love, the fees are always included. So what you see is what you pay. Here's a couple features from the Game Time app you want to know about. Priority. Again, fees are included. Know your total upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. I like zone deals. You can save even more when you choose a section and let Game Time choose the specific seats. They always show you seats, the views from your seats as well, and you get the lowest price guarantee. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code CHGO for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Create an account, redeem code CHGO for $20 off. Tap, ticket, go. Download the Game Time app today. All right, let's bring Ross Tucker back in Hoge Jahns. Always fun talking to Ross. Of course, the Ross Tucker podcast. Pretty much, your football season, you're everywhere. You're going to be doing some games for CBS right this year too. Westwood One. Basically, anytime I turn on the radio, I'm hearing something from you, Ross.
Yeah, I got a doubleheader week 1. I think Thursday night, the Cowboys Eagles. I'll be there for Westwood One Radio with Kevin Harlan, and then first thing Friday morning, I'll fly down to New Orleans. My CBS game is the Arizona Cardinals at the New Orleans Saints. So I love doubleheaders. I love football. I love calling football games. So the more the merrier.
Preseason football is now over. As someone who watches the game, played the game, like when you're analyzing preseason football, like what are you trying to draw from it? Like what are you trying to learn from, these teams in the preseason, specifically the Bears?
Yeah, so that is a terrific question. I would just say that's the right question because I do the Eagles preseason TV, and I'll give you one example, okay? The Eagles' first preseason game, you'll appreciate this. They played the Bengals, and the Bengals played their starters the whole first quarter because the Bengals have gotten off to a slow start in recent years. Well, it's like, I don't know, 3rd and 6. And Vic Fangio, who you guys know well out there in Chicago, he calls a cover 0 all-out blitz while Keely Ringo, who has never started a game and is competing to start a corner for the Eagles opposite Quinyon Mitchell, filling in for Darius Slay, who left to go to Pittsburgh. He's covering Jamar Chase man-to-man, okay? Keely Ringo gives up too much space, takes a bad angle, gets dusted. Jamar Chase scores an easy touchdown. Fangio says after the game, I would never call a cover 0 and have Ringo covering Jamar Chase one-on-one like that in a real game. We want to put guys in situations and see how they react. So I think that's really, really important that when you're watching the preseason game, like the Bills game where the Bears looked awesome, or this last game where, Ben Johnson wasn't happy and they were sloppy, you really don't know what the objective is for either team, not only for the game, but on a play-to-play basis. Like sometimes they really just want to put one guy in a situation. Other times, like the Eagles week 2 against the Browns, I don't think they blitzed once. They wanted 4-man rush. They wanted the DBs to cover. They were trying to figure out who the next 2 edge rushers are, who the next 2 interior guys are. They just wanted to see those guys rush the passer. And then for the corners and the safety, they just wanted to watch them cover. They didn't want to scheme anything up. So you really can't take anything, I would say. You can take very little from success or failure of the team. And I would say not a ton from the scheme, although it was encouraging to see Caleb Williams doing those positive things against Buffalo from under center, because I'm a big believer in under center and the value of being under center as a quarterback. But you don't really know, like the Bills, this is just my inclination, and I don't know this, guys. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the Bears, nationally televised game, home against the Bills, more or less the Ben Johnson debut. I think it was very important to the Bears franchise that game go well, they get off to a good start, that they go down, score a touchdown, all those things. I don't think the Bills really cared, right? Like, the Bills didn't play their guys. Josh Allen didn't play. I don't think the Bills really cared. That said, you'd still rather have your guys look good and play well than play poorly. I do think individual player performance, if a guy drops the ball, if a guy like Caleb makes a nice throw, that stuff matters more than end results of scores or anything schematic. I don't know if that made sense or not, but like for the Eagles, it's still a bad sign that Keely Ringo got smoked. They wouldn't do that in the game, but they were kind of hoping he would at least make the tackle. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. No, and I agree with you because I even said going into that Bills game, I was like, hey, look, fair or not, this game's on national television. And if Caleb looks horrible, he's going to get blasted on every show tomorrow morning. And if he looks great, they're going to praise him. And then sure enough, Monday morning, turn on whatever show, probably including the Ross Tucker football podcast. And you're talking about how good he was. So it's just part of it. That's what we all do here. So that being said, because you one of the reasons why I love what you do is because you can get in the nitty gritty and really do what you're exactly talking about right now. Pull out what matters, what doesn't. To you, what matters from this preseason, from what Ben Johnson either accomplished or didn't get enough out of Caleb Williams, in your opinion?
Yeah, so I would say I really like that he showed that Caleb Williams can operate from under center and run some of that play action stuff that they do, because that's really where the Lions made most of their money the last few years with Ben Johnson and Jared Goff. And, those play action under center plays, first of all, it seems like the guys are always open, but there's a true timing and rhythm to those plays that I think is super important for Caleb Williams, because right or wrong, he does not have a very good internal clock, right? I saw that when he was in college, and that's something I look for as an offensive lineman. He doesn't have a natural sense of when he needs to get rid of the ball. Now, in fairness to him, that can be difficult when you're an exceptional athlete, because in high school, there was no clock, because he could just make those guys miss or break a tackle and then make a play. In college, though, he did not learn nearly as much as I would have thought. The amount of sacks he took at USC, and maybe they didn't have a great offensive line, but I don't care. I mean, it's still USC against some of the other teams. You can't take that many sacks. And that was a pretty significant red flag for me for Caleb coming out. Probably the biggest one was just, in my experience, guys that get sacked a lot, quarterbacks that get sacked a lot, right? Like it's a natural thing for them. They, I think they know it's not a positive, but maybe they don't understand just how big of a negative it is. And I think you can improve that, but I don't think you can improve it by leaps and bounds. I think there's some DNA there, right? So let's say the best quarterbacks we've ever seen on a scale of 1 to 10 of getting rid of the ball and not taking sacks. Let's say it's Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. Or let's say those guys are a 10. If Caleb Williams is a 2 or a 3, he's not going to get to a 10. You got to try to get him to a 5 or a 6. That might be good enough. And I think Johnson correctly recognizes that the under center play action and the natural timing and rhythm of that actually, ironically, gives Caleb, even though he's not used to it, didn't do it in high school, didn't do it at Oklahoma, didn't do it at USC, it gives him a better chance to play on time than just shotgun, ball in hands, looking around, where I think he has a tendency to hold it. So the fact that they operated from the under center play action stuff and showed they can do that a little bit, I thought that was encouraging. I also, when I was listening to you guys earlier, I also think that greatly helps out the offensive line. If you have 2 tackles, okay, who are, maybe inconsistent, candidly, I guess I would have liked both those guys to be further along at this point. But the way you help them out is with play action. So it's not a straight drop back pass. It's not an obvious passing down. They can more or less run block the guy on, with the play action pass fake. I think for a lot of reasons, it put those guys in a really good position.
So everything you just said kind of reminded me of the sack the Chiefs had on Caleb Williams, where he looks right, he looks left, seems to have Roma Dunze there for some quick game, but then he doesn't let the ball go. He said later that the timing was off. Like he went through his reads too quickly, and then when it came to it, he
He said his feet were too quick, right?
His feet were too quick. Yes.
Yeah.
So he tried to flee the pocket. He tripped. Asked about it later. Ben Johnson basically said the protection was good. Looked great. Did you see that play? And then maybe take that into the conversation about the offensive line, because at least on that play, the protection did look good. Did look like multiple opportunities were down the field there for Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and you know what I would say about that too? I love that he mentioned his feet. I want you guys to watch his feet in these regular season games, especially early. Right now, Peyton Manning's kind of a different example because he kind of like was herky jerky, but like it worked for him. But for the most part, you want calm feet. And the faster Caleb Williams gets the ball out of his hands, the better off he'll be, which I think is ironic because I think one of the reasons why the Bears took him and liked him, I guess, more than Jaden Daniels is because of how well he throws on the move and his second reaction plays. So what's the balance there? You took him over Jaden Daniels. He's not a better runner. He's not a better pocket passer, right? Or a progression reader. What he was is he was a better thrower, I guess, on the move is what I was told by some people. So you like that about him, which is why you took him number 1 overall. But we also saw last year, saw at USC, are seeing so far this preseason, basically the longer the ball's in his hands, the worse it is. I mean, that the more concerning it is. So that kind of flies in the face of why they supposedly drafted him number 1 overall in the first place. But I do think if you're a Bears fan, what you want to see, good, bad, or indifferent, is the faster the ball is coming out of his hands, the better. Because even what he said is my feet were too fast or I went too fast. He's got to learn. It's like 1, 2, 3, out. And if out is, throwing the ball away or in the dirt at somebody's feet, that's okay. Look at the data. I know you guys do this research. Like the data, your chance to have success and score points on a drive where you take a sack is so minimal. You lose the down and the yardage. You're going to be in 2nd and 14 or 3rd and 12 or whatever it is. Put you in a really, really bad spot. He cannot take these sacks. And the truth is, and I noticed this, and this might ruffle some feathers, but he's not as good of an athlete as maybe I thought he was, or maybe he thinks he is, right? Like he doesn't really run away from these guys that much. He's not as fast as Jaden Daniels. He's not Lamar Jackson. He's not Josh Allen. Like he's not. He's a good athlete, but I don't think he's a dynamic athlete. He's a guy that needs to move around a little bit to throw. I don't think he's a guy that is going to have. I mean, maybe I'm forgetting some games last year, but I don't remember him having like a bunch of games like over 50 yards. Like he's not Justin Fields, right?
No,
in terms of running.
No,
he's not a running quarterback, but they ran a boot the other day where it was designed for him to run. He's good enough that you can design a play for him to run and pick up a first down if you need him to.
And guess what? Just him doing that twice a game, if he just boots and takes himself once and they run a zone read and he pulls it and takes it around the edge, that sets up all the other boot stuff, all the other angles for the offensive line, the run game. If he just shows the willingness to do it 2 times a game, 2 or 3 times a game, it makes all the difference in the world because then the defense has to honor it.
So last time you were on, I teed you up to rave about Joe Thuney. You did a great job. This time I want to go to the center position. So the Bears spent money on Drew Dahlman. Just your overall opinion on Drew Dahlman as a player, but also since we're talking about Caleb, you know this more than most. Like, what can a good, reliable center do for Caleb in this offense?
Well, so I like Drew quite a bit. I was a little surprised he didn't get drafted till when he did. Very athletic. Loved the pedigree with his dad. Still remember his dad, playing guard, I think, for the Niners back in the day. But I do think he's athletic, mobile, gives them an option he can pull. He can get up to the second level. But that relationship's super important, especially like I don't know Caleb well enough to know where he's at from a football intelligence standpoint, or his you call it FBI, right? Football intelligence, football IQ. If you have a guy that can really help you with the protections, with redeclaring who the Mike is in the run game, that is really, really valuable. You know, ideally the quarterback does that, guys, but you also don't want to put that much on the quarterback. So if Dahlman can, hey, we got to audible this, Caleb. We got to go. We got to opposite or whatever. Like, we got to switch this. If a center can really be helpful to the quarterback with changing protections and getting out of bad plays, that's a huge, huge part really of the quarterback position. But if the center's a vet, Dahlman hasn't played that much, but he started every game last year and played really well. He should be able to help, you know, going through that year with Cousins and how Cousins does it, but then he had to do the transition to Penix Jr. for the end of the year. I bet you that's part of the reason why they got Dahlman, right? He heard how Cousins did it, right? A vet, been around forever, but then they got the rookie in there. Dahlman probably had to have a bigger load, and then he can hopefully help Caleb in that regard this year.
What's your take on the Bears left tackle situation now that the preseason's over? So let me just run it down for you. You had, when it started, it was Braxton Jones, Ozzie Chapillo, and Karan Amagaji. Right now, with camp basically over, cuts coming, that competition came down to Braxton Jones and Theo Benedict, an undrafted guy out of, Western Canada last year. Karan Amagaji's hurt. Now he's with the third team. Didn't play much in the final preseason game. Ozzie Chapillo, a second-round pick out of Boston College. He's been out of the competition for over a week now. He was moved to the right side. He's now the second-team right tackle. Like, from the outside looking in, for someone who played this position, like, what's your take on how things kind of went down for the Bears on the left side?
Yeah, not ideal. Not ideal. I mean, first of all, with as much as he's played now, you'd like to think in year 4 that Braxton Jones, like, that's his job and he's going to play at a high level. Obviously, the Bears don't have a conviction about that, which is why they're trying all these other guys. And in year 4, I think I'm ready to say, like, that's just what he is. You know what I mean? Like, I do believe players get better or worse, but year 4, you know, you probably should have made whatever strides you're going to make for the most part. You know, Amagaji, poor decision maker going to Yale over Princeton. So let's start with that.
Yeah.
If he, in fact, we even wanted him, by the way. But no, it's probably not good that they used day 2 picks on 2 guys the last 2 years, neither whom of which are going to start. And that's okay. That's not the end of the world. I mean, you kind of thought Darnell Wright and Braxton Jones would be the starter, but the fact that neither one of them are the ones that are really giving Braxton a run for his money, probably not a great sign, right, for those guys. Now, maybe they both end up being good or helping out. Maybe they switch to guard or whatever the case might be. But ideally, one of your day 2 picks from the last 2 years would be the guy pushing the guy at left tackle. It wouldn't be this, you know, Theo Benedict, who I know almost nothing about.
Well, and this will be the last one, but let's go to the right side, because you expressed a little bit of skepticism, I heard a little bit earlier when you brought up Darnell Wright too. And I look at Darnell, like, from the time they drafted him, as sort of this high floor right tackle, and I think that's what he's been. But, you know, we heard Dan Rochar, the offensive line coach, last week sort of admit that, not sort of, he straight up did. Like, when this guy gets tired, when his conditioning's not, then the technique and everything slips. And I'm sure you could say that for every player, but this was a top 10 pick. How do you feel about Darnell Wright right now, going into year 3 for him? It's a big year if he wants to get paid, you know, the big bucks for a tackle.
And by the way, I don't want to bring up a sore subject, and I know there were reasons why they didn't take him, but they could have drafted Jalen freaking Carter.
I know.
Have you guys ever watched Jalen Carter play football?
Yes,
it's unbelievable.
He's good.
It's unbelievable. Like, he is I mean, you could argue he's like the Eagles' best defensive player. I mean, it's just like, I mean, I know he had the background stuff and whatever, but then what ends up happening? Then you're signing guys like Grady Jarrett and doing these things to try to make up for what you didn't have. Meanwhile, Darnell Wright, you know, it's so funny because you said high floor, Adam. I think high ceiling for Darnell Wright, right? I think he's got a high ceiling in that he could be as good as any right tackle. You know, I love how explosive he is. I like the demeanor, those things. But what separates you as NFL offensive linemen is consistency. Really, every position, right? That's every position. It's, you know, there's plenty of guys that can look good on a lot of plays. If it's 65 plays for Darnell Wright, you need him to get the job done on 62 or 63, right? Not 58 or 59 or 59. Those 2 or 3 plays, that's the difference between Pro Bowl and starter and backup. It is only 2 or 3 plays. Like that is the difference. And it's the consistency that he still doesn't have. And for him, it's year 3. Like, I want to see it, right? And now, and before they always had the excuse, well, what about the guy next to him? Well, Braxton Jones doesn't have that excuse anymore. You know, Darnell Wright doesn't have that excuse anymore. The guy next to him, experienced vets. You know, Jonah's been in the system. Tooney's like, I think, a borderline Hall of Fame guy. Like, those guys, that's my whole motto for the Bears, in particular their offense this year. No excuses, right? Caleb Williams, they gave you a whole new inside O-line. They drafted guys first and second round at the skill position players, right? They brought in the offensive coordinator everybody wanted. If Caleb Williams doesn't play well this year, it's his fault. And I know the religion of young franchise quarterback and everybody buys in and you love him. But if he doesn't play well this year, it's his fault. It's not other people's fault. And I would say the same for Braxton Jones and Darnell Wright. It's now or never for those guys.
Ross, remind our listeners, our viewers about future fans, why it's so awesome for, you know, especially if you're a parent who has kids.
Well, parent, grandparent, uncle, aunt. The bottom line is, and I'm sure you guys deal with this, it's very, very difficult to get your kid to sit there and watch the games with me. Like, if I'm not working and I'm home, I can't even get my daughters to watch the Eagles. And the Eagles win every week. They're good. And my daughters are Eagles fans, but they'd rather be on their iPad. They'd rather be, you know, doing anything else. So thankfully, these guys from futurefans.com, they actually cracked the code with a storybook-led activity box in how to get children to understand football and want to sit there and watch it. So it's only $60. If you go there, they have like a 20% discount. So you're talking what, $50? It's futurefans.com. You're giving the gift to your kids, but it's a gift to yourself or whatever, because just to have, the Bears might be good. The Bears might be really good. And even if they're not, they weren't other times either. And you still sat there with your dad and watched every game and watch him yell at the TV or whatever. Like, that's the rite of passage. Futurefans.com. Get your kids to watch the Bears games with you. Futurefans.com.
Ross, thanks so much for jumping on with us again. I'm sure we'll talk to you soon, and we'll be listening to the Ross Tucker Football Pod.
Sounds great. Great talking with you guys. Thank you.
Thanks,
All right,
Ross.
there he is, Ross Tucker, joining Hoge Jahns once again with, you know, I would say real talk on a lot of different spots with the Bears. Maybe it overall seemed like a little bit of a Debbie Downer conversation on some of these things, but I think it's a fair.
It's football talk. Like,
it is.
It's accountability. It's serious evaluation. Like, one of the things I'm going to be watching the entire season is Caleb Williams' development and Ben Johnson's patience with it. Really, with everything they're saying about Tyson Bagent. Check out my column at allstageo.com about that. But, like, yeah, I agree with him on a lot of his points. We'll put it that way.
One more thing to mention before we get out of here. Should have mentioned this earlier in the show. So the Hoge Jahns introductory diehard offer expired, but if you still haven't signed up for some reason and you're wondering, how do I read Johnsy's takeaways? Well, we got a new one for you here, and this one's pretty cool because we've never done this in the history of CHGO. So I want you to listen up here. So first of all, if you just want to get in the door, the $36 offer is still there. That is still available for you. But we have a new CHGO Bears tailgate tier. So what this means is you can now get, it's a separate tier to sign up to be a diehard. And if you're somebody that goes to Bears games or just wants to come to one of our tailgates, sometimes we have people that come to the tailgates, just go to a bar down the street, right? You can now sign up to become a diehard under the tailgate tier, and it includes 2 free Bears tailgate tickets every year. So not just this year to sign up, but every year going forward, as long as you continue to be at the tailgate tier as a diehard, you will get 2 free Bears tailgate tickets. So this is more than paying for itself, because the tickets to the tailgates, when it includes all the food all the food and drink, it costs more than that anyway. So we're basically giving this away to you. If you're going to come to a tailgate, you might as well sign up. Plus, you still get your free CHGO shirt, full diehard access, and more. And this is the best part. You do not have to be a new member. If you are already listening to this and you're like, wait a minute, I'm already a diehard and I want to come to a tailgate, you can upgrade to the tailgate tier. So go to allchgo.com. You'll see the offer there, and you can upgrade with a prorated discount. Just log in. Your personalized upgrade price will appear on the site once you are logged in if you are already a diehard. So it's a great offer. We've never done this before. I should have mentioned it earlier in the show, but make sure you go check it out, because it's the tailgates are awesome, and we are going to make John's go at least.
I was going to say, I promise you. Now maybe surprise, appearance. So you got to be ready. You don't know when I'll be there, but I will be at a tailgate or 2, or maybe even 3, maybe 3 this year. So stay tuned. Got to check it out. I know it's a good time. I heard the food's fantastic, and we were talking about the drinks and all the stuff the other day. So yeah, check it out. Hang out with us.
All right. Any final thoughts before we get out of here? I think we covered it. That was a lot in that episode.
No, a jam-packed episode. We have another good one coming up on Wednesday. We'll have all your coverage on allchgo.com. Pat Norton, our friend, our behind-the-scenes friend. Oh, he's on Twitter. He's out there now. Has a roster tracker going on. If you're one of those fans who want to know things about every single cut and move that the Bears make in this time frame, so please check that out. Bookmark it. It's on our website right now.
Yep, and we're gonna jump in there too and provide some of our own thoughts on the big ones as they come down, sort of those key roster decisions that have to be made. All right, we hit an hour here on the show. Appreciate everybody watching, listening. Appreciate Ross Tucker joining as well. We will be back Wednesday with another episode. We'll have the 53-man roster by then. Practice squad might not be fully finalized by the time we're recording that Wednesday, but we'll know what the big decisions are and what has come down. So we'll have all that to break down on Wednesday. Our friend Nate Tice joins us as well. So make sure you are subscribed, hit that like button, rate and review the pod. Appreciate everybody being here, listening, watching, however you consume it. We will talk to you on Wednesday.
See ya.